What's happening, y'all? I wanted to speak a little bit on patho-adolescent culture. I was gonna try and do this on Instagram, but it just felt too, I don't know, kept going in different directions. So I wanted to have a little bit more of a free flow with it because it is very interesting and I don't know, feels like it's going somewhere. So what I want to discuss this evening is patho-adolescent culture or pathologically adolescent culture. That term patho-adolescent comes to us by way of Dr. Bill Plotkin, an eco-psychologist, writer of Journey to Soul Initiation. And he uses this term because our society proffers what are age appropriate values for adolescents as the pinnacles or as the things to aspire to in adulthood. And as far as things for a society to do, this is not so great. So, what are the signs that we're living in a patho-adolescent culture? The first that comes to mind is the way that we look at the process of aging and how we look at people who are elderly. Often we see ourselves reflected in that, and we see the reflection of our societal destiny as far as being old is concerned. We don't see strength and wisdom and perseverance and respect. We see dwindling. We see weakness. We see frailty. We see dependence, neediness, and we're like, ugh, no. Especially in a patho-adolescent culture, that is to be very despised. The whole dependency thing. That's one of the things you're rebelling against as an adolescent. And that's very age appropriate. And you want that to happen because you don't want to be a dependent adult. Now, and that's part of your own individuation, separation process from your family of origin, from your parents, from your siblings, things like that. The second is that uh, within that elderly population, there are very few true elders, very few people who have been working with the mystery their whole lives, that have been initiated and have lived more of their lives past that initiation than before it. Those people are very far and few between, and you have one in your local peer review, definitely definitely get to know them and be the grateful adolescent to the elder. Our system of leadership, probably the best sign is that our own democratic process or our own political system actively promotes those that adhere to the adolescent way of relating. And now this is very crucial. So the age appropriate conflict in adolescence is the development of a role identity, and specifically of a role identity within a group. Now, what's important about that, this is not something that's bad, right? It's not blanket bad, it's not blanket good either, because as you're starting to get away from your family of origin and from your parents, from mother, all of that, now you're going towards another group of people. And you want to identify with a group of people. It's very good. And you need to become the mortar that holds your society together. And you'll have time to discover the mysteries of yourself later on, once you've made yourself useful in some way, hopefully in a way that is very, amenable to you, i.e., you're a craftsman, you like working with your hands, and so you take up architecture, or you become a builder or a carpenter. You're an artist, and you're working on your art, or you're writing, you're finding some skill. I mean, this is where a lot of us get derailed too, is because we go after a certain job because it's very rewarded, particularly financially. And it necessarily isn't what is our true calling or what really lights the fire inside of us. And so the point about coming to these group identities and these group allegiances is that the rules upon which membership is based is more or less arbitrary. There are some great, some things that persevere throughout groups. And this is one of the parts about growing older and individuating, is that you keep what works and what's great, and you discard what was arbitrary, weak, or obsolete, because as time moves on too, the values that we ascribe to have to change because the world that we live in is different. And so that's one of the reasons why you can get so locked in to a patho-adolescent culture. And it's because you're promoting an arbitrary value that people will put themselves into. And if you structure the society in such a way that they keep chasing that, now they have a lot more reason to believe those arbitrary rules and values. Now, you see this at play in both those that want to maintain the structure and don't want to change it at all, and those that want to radically change the structure and blow it all up entirely because the whole game was rigged from the very beginning. So we have to set the entire powder keg afire. And what you'll see both of these people doing, or both of these groups doing, is they're going to both be promoting these sort of adolescent clique values. Now, think back to when you were a teenager, and think about the group of people that you hung around with, and the expressions that you use, the mode of dress that you might have ascribed to, the ways of looking at the world that you may have agreed upon. Those were all to some degree arbitrary and immature. And if you look back to what expressions you used, how you carried yourself, and how you may have dressed as a teenager, then that arbitrariness becomes evident, and you wouldn't also change it for the world. Those were your friends at the time. You were just having fun. This is what the broader society is supposed to provide for, is for you to have a healthy adolescent development, have a healthy child development, have a healthy infancy development, all of that. Now, because we're so locked into this adolescent nature, or this striving, if you will, and this is the third thing that you can discern our patho-adolescent culture by, is that the values of display and accrual and aspiration are very much promoted. And so we're always going after something. We're aspiring to a net worth, number one. We're aspiring to numbers of sexual partners. We're aspiring to accolades, to congratulations, to titles, to things like this, many of which will afford us more status. And of course, those are all mixed in with our own individuation needs, our own, say, you don't want to just be a writer, but you want to be a New York Times best-selling writer, right? Why wouldn't you? And the problem with that is that we do maintain a very kind of narcissistic, or a very limited point of view, or a very immature point of view. And for a very long time, we haven't really encouraged that people explore themselves. I mean, if you were to throw that around in like the 1950s or the 1940s or the 1930s, for God's sake, like, explore yourself, like, people were like, what kind of trip are you on, bud? Like, it's for God and country. That's what we're in for, and family. That's what we're here for. And also very developmentally appropriate for where our society was at the time. But the deeper mystery of who you are, what is the self? Because what can you pin any of this down on? It's not your rule, it's not your role and the rules that you follow. It's not your body, it's not your emotions, it's not the skills that you have. Because what were you before all of those things? What were you before you had words? What were you before you had a body? What will you be afterwards? And that's the patho-adolescent glean in the eye, is to say, well, duh, when this body dies, you die and everything stops. It's like, well, no, it doesn't. Have you had people die in your life? Did life keep going on? Did the entire process of the universe, did the stars stop burning? Did the constellations stop churning? Did Mother Earth stop circulating the sun? Did the waves stop going? No, because you are all of that. And that's the idea that needs to be more promoted in our culture. And, I mean, thankfully, that to a large degree is happening. And we also do have to contend with the broader world that it does not see that, and that is very entrenched in fear and wants to keep conflict going, and very much enjoys the positions of power that you can have, the positions of power over others, which is another adolescent fantasy, is this kind of omnipotent power. And you see it in Simba, Simba from the Lion King. Just can't wait to be king, right? Get to order everybody around, make it all how I want to see it. Very age appropriate, but not so great when you're pushing 30 and 40. And not so great to see potentially another race between two people who are nearing 80. This is, of course, speaking Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who have not grown up since their early 20s, if that. Uh, that's where we're facing ourselves right now. And to have, I don't know, even a more grounded person in the White House, I mean, our political system doesn't reward the people that are at these higher stages of development. They reward the people that can win the popularity contest, that can win the fucking school council election. It's really pretty pernicious and nasty when you look at it, isn't it? But that's why you got to look within too. And that's the other fallacy that we run into when we undertake an inner work is like, oh, it's narcissistic, or where was it going with that? I don't remember. That it's all focused on you. It's all inner work. It's all you and not the community. And that's the thing that I would also start to that is absolutely true, because true inner work should beget outer work, should beget world work. And the processes should feed on each other. They shouldn't be isolated from one another. You do your inner work so that you can do your outer work, so that you can do your inner work. And when you're doing your inner work, you're also doing your outer work. And when you're doing your outer work, you're also doing your inner work. That's the idea. That's where you want to get to. That's where you want to be. And that's part of being a human, is that when you are sitting in solitude and silence, that's or doing whatever the fuck it is that you love doing, that rejuvenates you. That is doing your outer work, because that helps facilitate your presence in the world. So the two aren't meant to be divorced. And the more that we can ascribe to and encourage transpersonal values that are trans ego, that are not egocentric, the more that we can delve deeply into ourselves and recognize the singular awareness that permeates out each and every one of our eyes, the more that we can recognize that in each other. When we recognize that truth within, then we know, we just know. There's no way to explain it. You see the connection, and you see that connection not just within every human heart, but you see that within every blade of grass, every chirp of bird, you see it in everything. And so that's what we're really in need of, is the encouragement of those transpersonal values, the encouragement to go inward, discover who you are through meditation, through community, through ecstasis, through psychedelics, through inner work, through the entire panoply of being an incarnate human being. Anyway, that's my bit on patho-adolescent culture. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. Let me know. I also have an article up about this, kinda. I'm just gonna cut this part out. Later. Be well.